Previously on Talk That Talk. We had rookie meetings, and then rookie meetings couldn't last till like 2, 3, 4 in the morning, and they going in on us. You know what I'm saying? Like, so what is that? What would that look like? How would that look like, especially during our time? What would that look like? Anybody can answer that. I don't matter. But it wasn't rhetorical though.
It's very rhetorical. I mean, that's a balance that I don't think a lot of directors will be able to strike, because they got a job to get done. All the while, they want to, you know, I often wonder, do directors even keep in mind the numbers that they keep in the program while they go through the process? Like, is that like on their mind at all? Like, I've never been, you were on that staff, so, or on a staff, so, I just often wonder that, do they even really, are they mindful of what's happening like that? You know what I mean?
I can tell you, as a director, I know that I've made it my personal mission to be mindful of certain things. But it's just like this duality that you kind of deal with. I know from a secondary standpoint here in Texas, and I know Chuck is in here, but I don't know the standards of what it is somewhere else, but I do know the standards of what it is in Texas. And in Texas, you only can practice a certain amount of hours. And this is during camp. You only have a certain amount of hours you can practice, and in those hours you have to get drill fundamental, and you have to start working on your UIL show. Like, you're able to start working on certain things. But then they say every 20 minutes you're supposed to take a water break. Like, that's legal. That's what legally UIL said. So it don't matter specifically, whatever you're doing, every 20 minutes you got to stop and take a water break. But I don't know. It's a duality for me, because I know, as a director, I know I got work to get done. So in my mind, I'm like, I don't have the time to stop every 20 minutes, right, because you're breaking up focus. But then there's the other half of it where I can look out and I can visually see that these kids are like, I'm not gonna say, well, they not really dying, but they dying. You know what I'm saying? They mouth dry, they barely can stand up, and I was like, all right, well, we got to get water. So I think is that duality that you kind of play with. Being at PV during that time, I know that we made it a thing that we always took care of the kids, and we made sure that the kids were okay. That they had their necessary waters and breaks and whatever, all that, but we did work them still. So I don't know. I as a be quiet, man. I mean, we did, y'all. We took care of y'all.
I take it she was in the band when you were there.
Yeah, she was there when we got
there. The latter part of my time.
We were there 2 years while we were there.
So. You said what?
What year?
We were there 2 years after we got there.
I crabbed in 2010, so I was there 2 years before too.
Exactly, you're right.
Yeah. Oh no, I was long gone by then.
Yeah, you were done. You were gone.
Good job making me feel real old. Appreciate that.
Apologies, I'm so sorry.
I mean, I should have made you feel old when I said this is 20 years since I stepped on Norfolk State campus, because that means it was 21 for you when you stepped at PV.
I'm wrapped into 20 years of SFZ this year.
Oh, well, see, yeah, then that's about right. Yeah,
that's what my head is right now. So that's the only 20 I'm hearing right now.
Okay, I got you. Well, yeah, there you go. By the way, she's your chapter soror, if you know that. All right. So
Shame.
Yeah, my bad. I that's my fault. I didn't do all the introductions and stuff. But yeah, y'all deal with that. But no, man, I know that that's kind of what I felt like we did. But I, as a director, sometimes, like I said, it's a duality thing that you just kind of deal with and kind of fight through. But I know there's a lot of laws and things like that in place. What you gotta say?
This is triggering a little bit.
Okay.
I'm gonna say that because I've never been a director of anything. Well, I've never been a director of a dance line or what have you, right? But having been in the leadership seat, now I'm thinking that, so of course, we can talk about different times or whatever. I know that my crabs or what my team, I cause them some type of stress, right? It's just the nature of the business. Now I'm thinking, damn, well, how much stress could I potentially have caused them, or did someone feel anxious, right, when we were in practice? Or it makes me think of when you're in sectionals, right, and you're tuning or what have you, everyone plays separately, right, by themselves. How much stress does that potentially cause somebody? Because I also know when we started having to do auditions and we would have to go one at a time or two at a time, that would make me very, very anxious, right? But then thinking about it on the opposite side of it, if I were to be someone's director or coordinator or what have you, or let's say whomever is a band director, is that something that goes into the curriculum, or is that something that is learned as you are going through your education of your bachelor's, master's, or potentially doctorate, when you are trying to get to these particular levels, right? So for band directors, are there courses that you have to take that could addition or could potentially help you understand how to navigate those spaces for your students? Is that something that should be a thing, or is it more so going back to the conversation of it just really depends on who you're dealing with, those who are really in it for the sense of the children themselves, or just really in it to say, I'm filling this seat, I'm getting paid said dollars, or now I get to go off of the name that's already been built for said organization. Now I just get to wear the big hat on it. You know what I'm saying? So like my mind is thinking about all these things at all these different angles, and it's a little triggering. It's a little stressful.
So you brought up a whole plethora of things, and so I'm gonna try to tackle it as much as I can, and then we'll.
I know.
But
I'm sorry, y'all. When
no, no,
we
no.
have these types of conversations, that's exact. I have 500 tabs open up in here. Okay.
Well, you got 20
At all
screens, so I
times.
get it.
And it's 600 tabs on them, plus the 500 that's in my head, and the people that's in there talking to.
We know you got some people in there talking.
Yeah, not like that, but it's.
But
maybe
no,
I need to go back to therapy. Maybe we need to stop.
yeah, probably. Hey, there you go, Deontay. You may have another client.
Maybe we need to have some conversation.
But no, I mean, you mentioned a lot of things. So one of the first things I will say is, are there classes for that? We take psychology courses, but we don't deal directly. Well, we don't find a way to directly tie that to band. So we don't have like best band practices with dealing with psychology. It's like just general psychology for the most part. We don't have that conversation about, this is what should happen if you're dealing with this in band. And so yes, I do think there are courses that should be created for that. As a matter of fact, me and Rick have had that conversation many of times for a lot of years. But it just hasn't manifested yet. So but then the other thing that you said that I thought was very interesting is student leaders, right? Because student leaders can cause more stress than the actual directors, right? Because the student leaders can either be one of two things. The student leaders can be a direct reflection of what the band director is, and if the band director is someone who causes major stress, and they're gonna be that same person, or the student leader can just be an asshole. And if that is the case, then that causes more stress on those kids. So you just opened up a serious thought there that I didn't even think about at that time. So
yeah, you like yeah. Those were a lot of interesting takes. One thing I would say is that we have to be careful in as we try to reduce and alleviate all stress. Some stress is good. That when you're in a position where you're pushing yourself and you're challenging yourself, and you never know how far you could stretch and go and achieve until you kind of make yourself uncomfortable. Like that playing along. Like do you think that guy, your guitar player, had he not practiced by himself sometimes or auditioned by himself sometimes, or been able to play in front of y'all whether it's your eyes were closed or not. Like at some point, he had to be able to, kind of stud up a little bit. And I think there has to be a healthy balance. Like if you see somebody that's getting ready to break or getting ready to just, drop tears, then of course you don't continue to push them. It's not the military. But at the same time, you want to allow them to kind of come into their own. Like it has to be a healthy balance, and it has to be done um, with good intentions. Because I think about Professor Edwards. He was tough, he was direct, but he was never abusive. He was never chastising. He let you know what you needed to know, and he didn't mince words. But you never felt like your best interest was not at the forefront of his mind when he was addressing or dealing with you. And like you said, as a result of that, the drum majors, they kind of mirrored that. We had some guys that were a little bit more vocal than others, or a little bit more, maybe brash, but none of them were like in your face trying to demean you or trying to, kind of like shine, just no, we didn't have that. Um, so I think some of that is good. Like you have, like we that soft question comes back to mind because we don't want to baby people. You don't want to baby people because the winners that they out there still winning. They training winners. Like I have a son, and my son will not. I watch him struggle every day. He likes to crawl up under the table and get up under the chairs, and he will sit there because I let him sit there till he figures it out. When he start crying a little bit or he bumping his head, then I'm moving. But and he want to crawl and keep crawling under there. You keep crawling. Go ahead. You figure how to crawl and get through that maze on your own. Until you either stop going under there or get better at getting out. It's gonna be one of the two. So we can't. It's not the kind of world.